he eventually started making threats to her. And then he would go offline for like 6 months to a year and then come back and like find her phone number and call her and leave her like a very creepy voicemail. So he knew where she lived. Why are you laughing?
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's Kate
and JJ,
and we're back for another episode this week. We are in season 14, our remixed Going Rogue season, where we're talking about dating things that are happening around us in culture and also just other things that we're seeing. And today's episode is going to be really good because we're diving into two very hot topics, I think. One, cyberstalking. That's a big deal.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how Kate cyberstalked me, and then we're going to talk about a popular show.
A brand new show called Nobody Wants This on Netflix, which is all the rage at the moment.
Yeah. So
stay tuned. Hey, if you're on YouTube, you can see us. I can't see you very well because this light is blinding me right now. But hey, guys, we love our YouTube family. And just a really quick announcement. This is so exciting. But tomorrow, if you're listening to this, tomorrow, literally our sales for HODC Dallas, we have a flash sale going on for 48 hours. This conference is going to be the best conference I think we've ever done because it's the biggest venue, I think the nicest venue, and it's going to be the most unique conference. You want to tell them why?
No, you tell me why. I'm curious why. You tell me why.
Okay, because it's going to be a build your own conference experience. So for example, I am a kind of gal that loves like a fire hose of information. I'm like, let me learn everything. But then JJ, on the other hand, is like, I can only take bite-sized portions, you know? And so conferences, typically you go to them and it's just like session after session after session. You're learning so much. And on top of that, we have podcasts like this one. And on top of that, we have Instagram reels that are, you're learning from everywhere these days. There's like an influx of content.
It's too much.
So this conference, if you are somebody like me that loves all the content, then you can go to every single informational session, every workshop, every keynote, everything. Or
do you like that? Like you're genuinely saying you love 7 sessions in a row.
I like learning a lot, but I need some time to digest. So I would probably do some other things as well.
Okay. And you don't like meeting people like in the hallway?
No, I do love that. So JJ, if you're like JJ though, especially, then you're going to create your own custom experience. Well, anyone can, but you might create it so that you go to one session and then after that you take a break and you go to our like fun lounge and you hang out with people and play games. We're also going to have options to see a live podcast of Heart of Dating. We're going to have different various workshops. We're going to have dancing. We're going to have live blind dates.
Wait, what kind of dancing?
Probably salsa dancing.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Not line dancing?
Not line dancing.
Not hip hop?
At our singles party, we'll have line dancing.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Or we're also going to offer extended worship, which is really exciting. So for some people who are like, you know what, I just want like an hour of worship and prayer time. You can have that option.
Yeah. And then you can brag about how much more holy you are than all the other attendees. So it's great.
So it's going to leave plenty of time. If literally you want to skip everything and just meet people, you could do that too. That's fine. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be Valentine's Day, February 14th and 15th in Dallas, Texas. Can't wait. So make sure to go to heartofdating.com/HODC. All right, babe, let's get into it.
Okay, so Kate saw me online. She was obsessed.
My gosh, stop that.
And thus began the story of how she cyberstalked me for how many months or years?
I know. I just knew everything about you, where you were from, all the different hairstyles.
Yeah. So it was a little weird when we first met because she was asking me how my spring break trip to Alaska was with the family when I was 13 years old.
That never happened.
Yeah, the trip didn't happen. But the point is, you were obsessed with me.
No. So obviously he's lying. It's fine. But I am obsessed with you now.
Okay.
But let's talk about cyberstalking for real. Okay. So here's the thing, JJ. We have a lot of single people who are like, I don't want to go online because it's unsafe or it freaks me out. And when you've heard that, like, what is your honest to goodness opinion when you've heard that before? Are you being dramatic, or like, are you like, oh yeah, that makes sense?
Well, as a guy, it's different, right?
Yeah.
I can't relate, and it just sounds so foreign to me. It's like the same reason. It's like, do you fill up your car at night at any gas station? And as a guy, I'd be like, yeah.
Right.
And you'd be like, you don't go to well-lit ones? I'd be like, why would I do that? It just doesn't occur in my brain.
Yeah. So it doesn't occur to you, have you heard stories of cyberstalking?
Some. I've also heard stories of people, bad things happening when you get in an Uber, like late at night by yourself.
True.
But again, I think it's different for men and women.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when it comes to those kind of stories, I just put them somewhere in my mind where it's nice to know, but I never really think it could happen to me. That's how I'm wired.
Okay. So
how about you?
Question in reverse.
Yeah.
If I were to answer that, I would say yes, as a female, you have to be safe. But I was like, don't be afraid of online dating. There's ways around it. And I still am for that. But I will say, I recently took an 11-hour drive to Florida, there and back. And
nice brag.
Solo. And I did listen to a true crime podcast. It's called Something Was Wrong. I listened to season 19, and this girl named Amy, and her story of being cyberstalked. Now, just a forewarning, if you go and try to listen to this podcast, there is language, and there's various different seasons. I have not listened to all the seasons, but I do think season 1 is pretty good. Okay, so that being said, this story, I'm just going to give you a synopsis because you don't know anything about this, right?
No.
Okay, so Amy goes on a dating app and she meets this guy, and he is handsome. He loves the outdoors. He's into aviation, which has a connection to her because I think her dad was really into aviation, something like that. And anyway, they're in Denver, and they match and they start chatting. He's asking great questions. They're connecting well. And then, so they begin chatting and banter for quite some time on the dating app, maybe like a week or two. And then, she's building this connection with him online. And then he starts asking some maybe funnier things, but at first he's sending they're sending photos of each other to each other of different things, not necessarily of themselves, but just of different things. Okay, whatever, that's okay. But then he starts asking for some weird things. One of the questions he asked her was, have you ever had a one-night stand? Which is kind of a weird question to ask. Keep in mind, these people are not Christian. Okay. But she ends up telling him honestly that she had, and he was like, oh, tell me about it. And she tells him the details of this one-night stand. And that was that. Then after that, he starts asking some other weird things. He asked for a random photo of something in her house. And I forget what it was, but it was very random. I wasn't this, but it would be him asking hey, can you send me a picture of your printer? It's very weird. Why would he ask for a photo of a printer or whatever it was? It was some random object in her home. She was like, that's so strange. So she says, no, I'm not going to send you that photo. But, I forgot one more piece. Sorry, forgot one more piece is that she did send other photos of herself, not fully explicit, but some kind of scandalous photos, but nothing nude. Okay. Now that's definitely a thing you should never do ever.
Except to the
dating app.
Except to the guys in your fantasy football group chat.
Oh, sure. Okay. So she had already sent this and told him the story of the one-night stand. So then when he asked her for some photos of some random objects around her house, she was like, that's just so weird. And she said no. And once she said no to that, this guy did a complete flip 180 and started calling her names. It was a complete different person in a matter of seconds. Started calling her names. I won't repeat them because it's very bad. And then was basically detailing out, calling her scandalous, but I'm not going to say the word that he could use to call her because of the one night stand that she had.
Did it start with a W or S?
It started with a W.
Okay.
And anyway, so this guy proceeds from this point forward to stalk her endlessly online for 5 years. 5 years. He makes tons of fake profiles of her using the photos that she sent to him. he messages all of her friends on like every single time a new profile is created. He messages all of her friends, and the profile has like bad things in it about her. And then he would comment on her friends or organizations that he found out she was connected to through her job. He would comment as her really inappropriate stuff. So for example,
like on LinkedIn,
but also on Instagram. So I think there was somebody she knew whose child had died. He commented on the post something incredibly inappropriate, but like it looked like it was from her. So all these people that she knew are thinking this is her commenting these horrible things. And then he takes it so far as he does it on Facebook, he does it on LinkedIn, he does it on Instagram, and then he starts attacking her company and putting on all these horrible reviews, commenting on all of their Instagram posts. Why are you smirking?
It's so bad I can't help it. Wow.
I'm like, why are you smiling? And then he goes after members of her team at her work and the PR team that works for their company. And so he starts attacking all of these people. I mean, it's literally a full-time job, this guy attacking her. And then she, for 5 years is having to reach out to people, explain over and over again, this is not me. Why are you laughing?
Did she just have a script that she just copy and paste every time? Or
yes, but then
sounds horrible.
I think so, but also like there are other things. So he eventually started making threats to her, and then he would go offline for like 6 months to a year, and then come back and like find her phone number and call her and leave her like a very creepy voicemail. So he knew where she lived. Why are you laughing?
It's so bad.
So
it's so bad.
So it's really bad. So for 5 years, this occurs. This guy is like, horribly stalking her on the internet. And the problem that I learned through this episode is that there's not very many rules around stalking online. So there's like police know what to do with in-person stalking, and they could really help that out. But if you go to the police station and you're like, hey, I'm being cyber stalked by this crazy person, they don't really know what to do. They literally don't really know how to handle it.
Boomers. And
there's also like, companies like Instagram and LinkedIn, they're not helping with the cyber stalking. And so these profiles aren't taken down. Like even to this day, I think there's tons of profiles of her out there.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, you could actually cause a ton of damage in someone's life.
Yes.
By impersonating them.
So eventually I will just say this guy did get caught, and he ends up being, his profile on, the dating app was like this white guy that like loved fishing. He ends up being, what would you think that he like looked like? Or
was it, was it a he? Like, okay.
It was a guy.
Okay. Yeah. So it was a guy. I mean, picture the guy sitting behind his keyboard for years doing this. I would say 60, tubby,
okay.
Big, like mangled, like beard, like the neck beard for sure. Maybe halfway balding.
Okay. So first of all, the guy also in all these posts and things, he was also very racist. I forgot to mention that part.
But so his profile was not him. He was not using photos.
He was catfishing someone.
Yeah.
And
what did he look like?
So he was a Hispanic guy who was 40 years old, living in his parents' basement.
I was close.
And
was he balding?
No, this is the crazy part. Here's this. He went to Harvard. He was like a genius. He was incredibly smart and like top of his class. Literally went to Harvard, which is such a plot twist. So this guy is like brilliant. That's why he can think of all these different ways and things to get to her, but he didn't make anything of his life. And so he literally
Really?
Okay, stop. So I will just say
I was waiting for like
finally this guy got caught, and the only way he did is because he left her. She kept incessantly reaching out to the FBI. Eventually the FBI got involved. And if you ever are cyber stalked, or if you're being cyber stalked right now, I would go to this season 19 on Something Was Wrong, because they have resources and they mention the resources even in the first episode of that podcast. So just throwing that out there. My point being is cyberstalking is so intense. That was crazy to hear that story. And it went over for so many years. And it's very hard for the police. Police really didn't do anything this whole time. It was not until the FBI got involved that something did happen. But that's wild that somebody could literally just almost pretty much destroy your life for 5 years and have no consequences over all of those years. And get this, because there's no prior offenses on his account, he only went to jail for 4 years. And then he's out. He's probably out this year, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't even know what the law is for impersonating or cyberstalking like that. I mean, it is kind of new. Like it's a new world.
Yeah.
It's super scary. I feel so bad for this girl.
Oh, I mean,
I think I listened to like the first episode with you, and she was basically like everything was normal.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in some situations, like people fall for maybe, obvious traps online.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think about your grandmother falling in like to a trap with a scammer, but sometimes it's like very smart, intelligent people, and
Like
they're
this
just
guy.
like, yeah, well, no, like she was like it could happen to anybody.
Exactly.
I had something like a tenth as bad, but in college I was impersonated for like a year or two. People set up like Snapchats and dating apps in my name, and they were messaging girls all over campus and all over the area.
Are you serious? You
Yeah,
never told me this.
terrible things like asking for nudes, like super
So
inappropriate.
these girls would see you on campus and think
Yeah,
that they
I
sent
like
you a
for a
nude
little bit of
photo?
time, like these individual girls thought I was like a super creepy, like bad dude, like, and I didn't know them. And so word got around, and they would talk to someone and tell them, and they were like, JJ, like, and would tell them, and they're like, the people who did know me were like, there's no way.
Yeah,
And
they're like, "That's not him."
they're like, they would show me like, there's just no way. And so they came to me, like the friends or the mutual friends, and they're like, is this you? Or is this something like, it's like, that's absolutely not me. Like, absolutely not. And so I'd open up a police investigation
Wow,
with a school and local police. And they were just like, yeah, there's nothing we can do.
So you never found out who it was?
No, I had no idea. I went on for like a year and a half. Like my coach called me in. I was like, hey, I heard about this through the police. Is everything okay? I'm like, I mean, yeah, there's just nothing we can do about it except like, and so there's just going to be some people who think that you're like a super creepy guy who's super inappropriate, and there's just nothing I could do.
That sucks.
Except apologize once I got them. Yeah. And I put like a message out on my socials, and there's just nothing you can do. Like you can report them.
I mean, that was obviously way smaller. It still sucks. And I'm sorry you went through that.
What's up, fam? It's your boy JJ coming at you YouTube vlog style. This is new for me. Hope you guys like it. If it creeps you out, I won't do it again. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I'm so pumped up to talk to you guys about BetterHelp. They've been one of our partners for years now. Just because therapy and singleness goes hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly, I think that's the biggest thing I've seen in singles who are the most mature, growing, content in their life is they've all done some form of therapy, which I really love. I think especially as a guy, the hard thing about therapy is I need a big reason to go. I need a deep why. And oftentimes it's like a heartbreak or like being broke or being really frustrated with my life. That is my why. So take it from me. Wisdom is the ability to learn lessons without having to go through the lesson itself. So if you guys are interested in getting better help for your therapy and your counseling, we actually have an offer for you. That's betterhelp.com/HOD for 10% off your first month. I could not recommend it enough. That's betterhelp.com/HOD for 10% off. Love you guys.
So cyberstalking is a real thing and very difficult. And so as we're talking to our singles, on dating apps, I think I want to share some thoughts on how to have some online safety and obviously avoid any kind of situation like this. Because then there's other things like the Tinder swindler. If you've seen that show on Netflix, there's like a lot of things out there about, people catfishing or pretending to be people that they're not. And then obviously this case of cyberstalking. And so I'll just give one and then I'll throw it to you to maybe give some other thoughts on online dating safety. But I would say at the first thing I'll say is I wouldn't hear something like this and say, oh my gosh, I'm never doing that ever. Because then we should just never have a phone device. And then, you never take an Uber. And then, there's just so much that you just wouldn't do because there could be a risk of something bad happening. But I would say it's not that you shouldn't do online dating, but how do you be really, really wise with online dating? And the first thing I would say, and if this girl did this, I think she may have been able to avoid a bit, is get on a FaceTime call immediately. Like within the first 48 hours, a Zoom call if you don't want to give them your phone number, but get on a call with this person ASAP.
Yeah.
Because
and why FaceTime specifically?
I think because you want to see them.
Yeah.
A, you want to make sure they're not catfishing you. This guy was catfishing her.
Yeah.
And B, you want to hear their voice and see like who they really are. Because anybody can write any sort of script on an online, they can make something sound awesome.
Yeah.
And so first of all, do that. Second, do you have a second one or I can?
You go. You got it. Okay. You're hot.
If they don't want to do that, that's a red flag for sure. I mean, like, why? Why don't you want to get in a FaceTime or Zoom call? I'd be like,
well, as a guy, maybe my makeup doesn't look good that day or my hair's not done.
No, if they insist just on meeting in person, total red flag. Don't meet, just disconnect with them instantly.
I totally agree.
The guy should want to do anything it takes to make you feel safe. And as soon as he expresses or doesn't want to do something like that and is hesitant, and you're saying that this is how it makes me feel safe, then no, he's gone. Yeah,
I think I agree with that. Guys have an inclination to make you want to feel safe, at least a healthy guy.
Yeah.
So if you're like, it would make me feel really good and safe if I could at least FaceTime you before we go out in person.
Yeah.
I think the majority of mature, healthy men will say absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's almost nice too to like connect.
Yeah.
Before you go out on the date.
Second thing, always be in a public place. In the past, I've suggested hikes as a good first date. I would never go on a hike.
So you're redacting that?
I'm redacting that. Go in public locations. And in tandem with that, share your location with a friend. Like always share your location, not only on your phone, because we can do that now, but tell them exactly where you're going and send them photos of the dating profile of the person. Just as an extra realm of precaution. I don't think we need to be paranoid over this stuff, but I do think it's helpful to have that, to do those sort of safeguards in beforehand. Anything else you would add?
I mean, I would just say, the Bible calls us to act with wisdom and discernment. There's nowhere in the Bible where we're called to be walking in naivety of the world and the reality of this world. Like Jesus was super clear with his disciples. He was also told them to be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves.
Yeah.
Meaning to have extreme discernment between good and evil. And Jesus fled when he was supposed to flee, and he stayed when he was supposed to stay. Like there's no need for us as Christians to subject ourselves to dangerous, bad situations.
Yep.
Especially out of naivety. And that's one big thing that I always saw growing up, maybe more in like a homeschooled circle or a sheltered circle, is like there is that desire out of safety to shelter your kids from the reality of the world, which I don't really think does them any service.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of trying to live under a rock, where I just don't think that's doing your kid any favors. And so it's the same thing with dating. These stories are helpful examples to learn from. It's not the rule, but it's certainly possible.
And you have to be wise. If you should, just as another side note, never be on an app for long at all with a person. Like move off and get them on a phone call and then in person as soon as possible, and never send them photos like of yourself. I mean, especially nothing
until you know they're real. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think
nothing scandalous.
Oh, that's a big thing scandalous wise. Yeah. Just first the sin right of scandalous photos in general.
But people get tempted to do it anyway, even Christians.
No, I get it. And I'm saying like it is sinful. Like it's super.
Never do it.
Right. But two, it's also such a bad idea.
Such a bad idea. Oh, and this girl got emotionally too vulnerable. I mean, she shared details of her one night stand, which I would say is way too much to share with somebody when you don't really know them. So don't go emotionally too far either before you really get to know someone.
Totally.
All right. So pivoting to our second topic for today, which is the new show on Netflix, Nobody Wants This, which I just made you binge watch so that you could talk about this with me on the episode.
Yeah, you loved it, didn't you?
I do like it.
Why?
Can we preface a few things?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Before we get into our thoughts about this show that
This is Kate's
everyone
show.
is talking about.
Kate's show.
This is not a Christian show. Okay. There's language for sure. And there's one scene that, is that they go to a sex shop. So
You pagan.
I'm just saying, it's like, I need people to know that I'm not like outright here saying that this is like the best, most appropriate show of all time.
Yeah, it's PG-13 with language.
Yeah, it's PG-13 with some extra F words for sure.
So why did you watch it?
But, it does lean back into, let's talk about why it's so popular, because it's being talked about everywhere right now.
Is it?
It is.
I actually haven't seen one thing on my socials about it.
Because yours is all football. And so all the millennial women out there, or all the girls that I follow, are talking about it.
Not Gen Z, just millennial.
And when I did post about it on my stories, like last week, I had so many people respond.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did you say about it?
I love it.
Oh, okay. What did they sound like? Oh, I love it.
So why do you think people like it?
I mean, I will say it's really well written.
Yeah.
It's one of the most well-written modern shows I've seen lately.
Mm-hmm.
Just like their humor. I love the big brother, Sasha.
Yeah.
He was my favorite.
Yeah.
He's in a couple other shows I've watched before. And he's like a very antagonistic, funny guy.
Yeah.
He's always got that same kind of role.
Yeah.
Like the big dummy. But you tell me why you like it and why you think everyone is crazy about it.
Okay. So I think the biggest reason is it feels familiar. People are watching it and they're saying, I feel like my dating life is kind of like this.
That's not a good thing.
But that it at least shows something that feels a little more realistic.
Yeah, just like the situationship of it.
And also the fears. Like what I did enjoy is, so the premise is about a rabbi named Noah and this podcaster who doesn't believe in God named Joanne. And she has often attracted emotionally unavailable people. And so on her podcast, she kind of talks about that. That's what her podcast in the show is about. Kind of like her dating life. It's so funny. And Noah, the rabbi, was in a very long-term relationship. In the first episode, he exits that relationship. He very much was in it because like his mom wants him to marry this girl. He got comfortable. This is who he's supposed to marry. And he's just realizing like, I don't really think I want to be with this person. And so, but what I think people really like about it is that it shows Joanne, the girl, how she's working through trying to attract a more emotionally healthy person, and how she usually turns those people away or is not attracted to them, is very into like the toxic, almost abusive kind of guy.
So she's trying something new.
She's trying something new, and she's putting like her fears on display. Like she's showing her cards. She's showing her insecurities. There's a scene where she is showing that as she tells him like, basically, I'm afraid that if I show you all of myself, that it's not going to be enough, and I'm too much in essence. And
so that really registered with you, and you think a lot of people watching?
Yeah, definitely. I think it shows the battle of like, there's another scene where she gets the ick, and like when she gets the ick for him, she like wants to run away immediately. She's like, oh no, I'm done. And she wants to run away. And he comes back being like, I noticed something was off. Let's talk about this. And, it's very easy in those moments. You just want to ghost the guy. You're like, ew.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think he's written too perfectly?
I don't think he's perfect. He has mommy issues for sure.
I mean, yeah, a little bit. But like in general, every single conflict.
He's supposed to be like more of the emotionally healthy guy. He is in the show emotionally healthy.
Okay, but he's like he's like every conflict, not really defensive. Like there's not really one part of the show where he like looks bad.
I agree. And I think that's why people love it.
Yeah. So do you think it's unrealistic?
I should clarify, females love it. That's why females love it.
Yeah. Do you think it's unrealistic?
Maybe a little unrealistic.
Because it allows her to be human.
Yeah, but
and imperfect, but he is like...
You did this a lot at the beginning of our relationship. You were like him.
Are you trying to say I was perfect?
Yeah, you were really good. No, I mean, not perfect, but like...
Thank you, babe. I'm blushing.
I'm like having these issues and you're steady and consistent. And that's what so many women want. They want to be able to show a man my mess and
what were you going to say right there?
Steady and consistent.
Were you going to say crazy side?
Sure. And have him not freak out.
Yeah.
And knowing that like, okay, this is momentary. I'm not trying to be this forever. I'm still growing through this. Will you have the patience to hold space for me as I'm kind of still growing here?
So is there an assumption there that all women do have that more emotional side and that men, if they do want to be in a relationship, need to have some kind of emotional capacity and container?
Yeah, I think that's what this is showing.
But not the opposite, right? It's not really true, or you don't really see that.
I feel like
men are emotional and then the women's like a little bit more of the container.
You don't see that as much, but what we teach in feminine and masculine is, the man is typically more of a bigger emotional container for the woman if she is hyper emotional. And a lot of women are, not every woman, but so that's why I think people like it, first of all, because I think it feels familiar to a lot of people, at least Joanne's character. And Noah is a little bit refreshing because he's more emotionally healthy and the kind of guy that we want to show up in those situations when we're like having our insecurities on display. I think the other reason why it's very popular is it's nostalgic. It feels like a long form rom-com, which all of us millennials are missing. We miss the 90s and early 2000s rom-coms.
They are gone.
Back.
And what is it specifically about them that you don't think is in today's rom-coms or movies?
I think today's rom-coms are just, well, first of all, they just don't make them like they used to. The actors.
But like, what is it about a 2000s rom-com?
A lot of those, the guys are also like highly pursuing the women. And they come in with like the emotional capacity and more romantic gestures. And us women are like, oh, we love that.
But like You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
Or what's the Julia Roberts and the Runaway Bride?
Yeah.
Like are you saying they just don't make rom-coms like they used to?
Yeah.
But what is the missing ingredient? Is it slowness or like
no,
a kind of sweetness?
Think of rom-coms recently. There hasn't been many. But probably the best rom-com in the last 7 years is Crazy Rich Asians. And that was really good, but it's not the same as an old school rom-com. It's like modern and has all these Gen Z elements still to it.
But this one was super modern.
It's like, modern in terms of the flow, maybe, but not in terms of like the main characters. I don't think.
Interesting.
Also, it's nostalgic because Adam Brody, I think.
I don't know who that is.
The main character, Noah, Adam Brody's his real name, and he was on the infamous show, The OC.
Don't know that one.
And he was the most loved character, I would say, on that show. He was also Jewish on that show, and he like coined the term Christmaka because his one parent was, believed in Christmas and the other parent believed in Hanukkah. So he made Christmaka. And he just was like such a fun character. His character is actually kind of, literally, I read this in an article today. If Joanne and Noah made a baby, it would have been Adam Brody or Seth Cohen from the OC. Like literally like he would be their son. It's so funny. And so I think we see him in a very similar type of role as he played in the OC, which was like a lot of our these millennial ladies' favorite show. Not bragging about it because there are some unhealthy things I should never watch as a teen in the show. But yeah, and we're like, oh my gosh, Adam Brody, we love him.
That is funny. I mean, it would be like for me, picking a girl who's very important to fellow teenage men.
Yeah, but also, sure, like Megan Fox, right? So I want to talk about those are reasons I think it's so popular. And like you said, good story writing, good humor. Now, what do you think about the show?
In general, I liked it. I think if you live in LA and you're in your 30s and you're dating, I could see it's a super familiar, this is my story, this is my song, like very much your like day-to-day life in LA.
Yeah.
And so
and maybe I also really liked it because I lived in LA for
so maybe it was like a partial snapshot of like what your life looked like in LA and the spots you're going to. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't know, for me, like just in my faith being important, they did treat faith kind of like a I don't know, like just a set of religious beliefs that didn't really impact your life. Like he's a rabbi and he's having sex before marriage. I'm like,
I don't know.
That doesn't really compute.
Yeah, I don't love how I like that he is so into Judaism.
But he's not.
But also he's not. So it's kind of weird because he's like wishy-washy.
And that's Judaism. And the few Jews I've been around, like in college and in the West Coast specifically, that is Judaism in general. It is kind of strange to be around.
Generalized, I guess.
Because it's a culture, right? And it's also a religion.
Yes.
And
culture
and so like practicing versus not practicing versus it being a culture or like a set of beliefs or a set of practices, it is, and I do like that. I actually found myself watching it. I'm jealous of some of the Hebrew traditions that have been passed through thousands and thousands of years.
Cool. Yeah.
And I think that's super cool. Like, I'm actually kind of jealous as a Christian. I was actually thinking during the show, I'm like, why do Christians want to and have a tendency to celebrate Hebrew traditions more than these Jews sometimes? There's more excitement around participating in a Shabbat 24-hour Sabbath than some of these Jews.
Well, that's not necessarily true if you go to Israel.
No, not in, but in America.
I don't know.
You know what I mean, though? Like my mom does.
I don't have enough Jewish friends to be able to accurately speak to that at all.
Like I went to a college, there's a lot of Jews there, and none of them practice Shabbat. In the 4 years I was there, I didn't know a single one.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, just intellectually speaking. I thought it was a good example of a guy not sweating big reactions, like emotional reactions from his female counterpart.
I think that was important.
And learning how to just kind of like not disregard them, but acknowledge them and kind of just work through them back to intimacy with her. So I thought that was a good example. You wouldn't think about this when you watch it, but she was actually able to provide safe space for him as well to be vulnerable and open up, which I think is the most underrated and most important thing in these relationships. Like the stereotypical description of a relationship is she's got big emotional feelings and he's just got to be the safe container. I'm like, well, he has feelings too. And she's got to be a container and mature for him to be able to be honest and share his mind. It is important that both can have that for each other, not just one way. And so I think it was really fun to see that be displayed too.
But it's not necessarily like a show you would watch the second season.
That is the thing. I would be on the fence. I just think the writing was so good.
Yeah, it was. It was so funny.
So I really, really liked the writing. And
it was very quick-witted.
Super quick-witted. Yeah. Super funny. I love that the brother Sasha. So I just thought I wish you could just take out the F-bombs, and then I would watch it for sure. Yeah,
and like that one scene. But yeah, I would say, I think I really relate to Joanne. She shows that she has like unhealthy parents, and that's it's clear she has anxious attachment, and it's kind of like, it shows why. And that's why she's also attracting emotionally unhealthy men. And that shows that. And it's interesting because it shows his mommy issues as well. But, one other thing that I'll just say I didn't love is that he just got out of a relationship. And
I know, they kind of brush over that.
I'm like, I know it's a show, so that's, but that is so unrealistic. You just broke up with your long-term girlfriend. Now you literally the next week, like, meet this girl.
But that does happen sometimes. It can happen.
Yeah, that part of it is very unhealthy.
I have a friend it's kind of like that, and they had to artificially wait 2 months, even though they wanted to date the week after, they gave it time as friends.
Yeah.
But the whole time they were kind of talking, like they knew each other, liked each other, but they were just waiting to let it kind of cool off before they picked it up.
I'm not sure about that.
I know, but they're probably going to get married.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I did want to talk about why women love true crime podcasts. It's like sometimes you look at your spouse and they're wearing their headphones and they're kind of smiling or nodding or looking off into the distance. And then it's like that meme where it's like the audio plays and it's like he brutally murdered her and scattered her remains all throughout different parts of the city that they had been dates on. You know, I'm like, what is going on?
Well, we looked up why women love it because I do love true crime.
It's so
I don't
weird.
love all of the brutal details, but I do love, and I think here are some of the main reasons. Let's just quickly go over why women love true crime.
Okay, go.
They love it. This is from ChatGPT. They love psychological exploration, just the human psyche, the motives, behaviors, and it's kind of just fascinating and thought-provoking, like why somebody would do some of the things they do.
Men have that too. Like there's just something interesting about seeing the darkest side of humanity.
Like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
Also for women specifically, I think it creates a sense of community and discussion because a lot of women, they enjoy talking about it with each other. You know, I listened to a podcast called Scamanda, and oh my gosh, it's so good, you guys. It's crazy. I would actually recommend that because it's not like, there's nothing necessarily inappropriate in that show. It's really crazy though. And it has to do with the Christian women. So, but me and my best friend, Kristen, like we were voice memoing through it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nuts that this happened. And so I think that creates like community and discussion, especially for ladies, since we are the ones who often listening or watching these things. But I think probably one of the most important is the empowerment and awareness, because you just don't hear as many stories of, you know, women being the true crime person. It's more so like guys doing things, and women want to learn so that they can protect themselves and be aware that these situations are possible, and you have to kind of be prepared that it might happen. Mm-hmm. Speaking of being sheltered, you know, like I think there's a difference between being paranoid and living in fear and aware. Right. Like I would hate for any woman to not be aware when she walks out of a store when it's dark outside and she's going to her car. You know, that's just naive. We need to be, you don't want to be like anxious, but you need to be aware.
Like if I had a daughter, I want her to be aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Also the storytelling element. I mean, these shows, it's like great storytelling, and I love storytelling.
They do tell a good story, that much better than us at storytelling. And escapism. That's your last one.
Is the last one. Those are the 5 reasons.
Escaping in what though? Like,
I mean,
so this says that they enjoy putting themselves in a suspenseful, dramatic situation that are still far removed
from their everyday
from
life.
the danger of the situation. So you get a little bit of the scare without actually being in a scary situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely a weird thing. I don't know any guys who listen to true crime. I'm sure there is, but I seriously think if you ran the demographics,
it's women.
It's like 98% women listen to true.
I don't think it's 98%, but
okay, that's 99.
You should ask ChatGPT.
I mean, I guarantee you the demographic. I guarantee you it's all female.
All right, guys. Well, this was a fun episode, and we look forward to seeing you back next week.
Bye.
The Heart of Dating podcast is created by Kate and JJ Tomlin. Shout out to our epic audio and video editor, Scott Caro. We have an amazing Heart of Dating team who helps bring this show to you each week. I want to shout out Kelsey Napier, our Heart of Dating digital marketing coordinator, and Elena Gibson, our brand and community manager. We couldn't do it without them. Now, if you guys have never ranked us or reviewed us on iTunes or Spotify, would you consider doing that? It would mean so much, because our podcast can get more discovered and more people can learn how to better date as Christians. Don't we all want that? We launch our podcast each and every week on Wednesdays, so we will see you next week.